Good morning. May this morning be a fresh start for your soul, a new breath filled with peace and direction. Before the day's responsibilities take over your attention, pause for a moment and place this new dawn in the hands of the one who never fails. The presence of God is here, and the promise still echoes, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." How many times have you woken up wondering how you would face yet another day? With a restless heart, a mind full of tasks, and a body still carrying the exhaustion of previous days. But today, something different can happen. Today you can start with this truth planted deep in your soul. You are not alone. The God who watches over you while you sleep is also the one who guides you when the day begins. When the Bible declares that the Lord is our shepherd, it is affirming that we do not need to be led by uncertainties, fear, or anxiety. There is real, constant care, unseen by the eyes, but powerful enough to sustain every detail of your day. And this care begins now, in this exact moment when you choose to pray. This morning could be like any other, or it could be the beginning of a transformation. It all depends on your surrender. The shepherd is here, and he wants to lead you along the paths of peace, wisdom, and provision. Let this prayer create space within you for something new. May every word be like fresh water in the desert of your worries. Close your eyes for a few seconds, take a deep breath, and allow yourself to be guided by faith. This is not just another day, it is a new beginning with the care of the shepherd who never sleeps, never leaves, and never fails. If this prayer has already touched your heart at the very beginning, write in the comments, "The Lord is my shepherd, and today I shall not want." This phrase is a declaration of faith. By writing it, you are spiritually affirming God's care over your life. And if you want more people to be reached by this word, like this video, and send it to someone who needs to start the day with hope. Before opening the door and facing everything the day will demand, there is a spiritual secret that can completely change the way you live. Surrender. Surrender what hasn't happened yet. Surrender what is out of your control. Surrender the fears you don't always speak out loud. Yes, it is possible to start the daylight, even with a busy schedule, even with bills to pay, even with a soul still healing wounds that no one sees. When the psalmist declares that he shall not want, he's not talking about a life without problems. He's talking about a trust so deep, so real, that it turns even the hardest days into fertile fields of learning and faith. You can walk through this morning with steady steps, not because everything is perfect, but because you know God is in control. Maybe today you need to make important decisions. Maybe you're facing something you didn't expect. But the shepherd not only knows the way, he is the way. And when you align with his direction, even the strangest turns in life become part of a greater plan. Take a deep breath. Bring to mind what you need to lay at God's feet and say from your heart, "Lord, this day is yours. My mind, my body, my thoughts and feelings, all that I am and all that I do, I place under your care." It is in this act of trust that you will find rest. And it is in this surrender that transformation begins. Because true strength is not in trying to control everything, but in allowing the shepherd to guide each step with love and wisdom. The soul also awakens, sometimes in silence, sometimes screaming from within. It carries everything the eyes can't see: confused thoughts, hidden anguish, memories that insist on hurting. And that is why we need a shepherd, not only to show us the way, but to comfort what has broken inside us along the journey. The promise of Psalm 23 is clear. He restores my soul. That means there is relief reserved for your inner being. A spiritual refreshment that doesn't come from human advice or temporary distractions, but from the living and restoring presence of God. Only He can touch what is invisible, heal without surgery, restore without exposure, love even the parts you try to hide. Maybe there are wounds inside you that have been ignored for so long, they now feel like part of who you are, but they are not. The shepherd doesn't see you as broken. He sees you as someone in the process of healing. And today, this morning, He wants to begin or continue that process with you. Come near with sincerity. You don't need to pretend, you don't need to explain. Just say, "Lord, restore my soul." Go where even I avoid going. Touch what is tired, heal what still hurts, cleanse what got stuck in time. This prayer is a seed. Healing may not come instantly, but it begins now. And each morning with the shepherd by your side, you will realize you feel lighter, you feel more at peace, you feel more whole. Life doesn't always offer peaceful scenarios. There are days when the environment around you feels like a battlefield. Pressures, demands, hurtful words, crushing expectations. And in the midst of all this, a nearly unbelievable promise arises. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. What does that mean? That even when everything seems to be against you, God doesn't cancel the banquet. He doesn't postpone what He has prepared because of opposition. On the contrary, He makes a point to bless you even in the presence of what tries to bring you down. The table remains set. The provision continues to flow. The presence remains there, untouched. This is one of the greatest signs of care. God does not wait for the situation to improve in order to act. He shows up in the midst of the battle. He anoints your head while fear lurks. He pours the new wine while bad news tries to shake your faith. He lays the table with warm bread, even if the wind outside is cold. Today, as you leave your home, you may face resistance. There may be challenges at work, tension at home, or harsh words along the way. But none of these things have authority over the table the Lord has already prepared. You walk with dignity because you know your worth is not in the circumstances, it's in the One who invites you to sit. And as you sit, you are strengthened, because where God's presence is, there is provision. Where God's presence is, dignity is restored. Where God's presence is, there is honor, even where there was once pain. The day is just beginning, but God has already started to move. He doesn't wait for you to feel ready. He anoints your head now, even while you still have doubts, fears, or weaknesses. This anointing is a spiritual sign. You are set apart for something greater, even when everything still feels ordinary. The Bible says, "You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows." This verse carries a deep truth. You were chosen to live in spiritual abundance, even in the limitations of your routine. It's not about luxury or outward excess, but about a soul that lives full of faith, courage, sensitivity, peace, and direction. And when the soul overflows, the day changes. The way you react, the way you speak, the way you face your problems, everything transforms. Because when heaven touches you from within, not even battles can fully shake you. Maybe you've been living with the feeling of always being halfway there, half strong, half weak, half excited, half tired, half believing, half lost. But today the shepherd reminds you, you were not called to walk around empty. You were created to overflow. May the fresh oil of God's presence renew what has dried up this morning. May your mind receive new thoughts, your mouth speak words of faith, Your hands do good, and your feet walk with purpose. May heaven touch your life in such a way that overflowing becomes inevitable. If this word spoke to you, write in the comments, "Today I will live full of God's presence." Your declaration of faith can reach other lives and also create space for that anointing to grow within you. There's a kind of blessing you don't need to chase after. It comes to you. Look at this promise. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. It's not a guess. It's not a possibility. It's a certainty. It's as if God's goodness is always behind you, ready to catch up with you. Maybe you've gone through many seasons where it felt like only problems were chasing you, where what surrounded you was pain, disappointment, loss, or pressure. And maybe today there are still remnants of that. But there is a new spiritual reality being declared. From the moment you walk with the shepherd, goodness becomes your new companion. You no longer have to live like someone abandoned, nor carry the identity of someone who always suffers or always loses. The word is clear. God's goodness is behind you, around you, surrounding you on all sides, even when you don't notice. And it doesn't come alone. It comes with mercy. Goodness is favor, mercy is forgiveness, and together they cover you. They lift you on hard days. They save you from worse consequences. They treat you tenderly even when you don't think you deserve it. Today, as you take your first steps, remember, you are being followed, but not by your past, not by guilt, not by fear. You are being followed by the goodness and mercy of the Lord. That changes everything. Lift your head. Grace walks with you. Love covers you, and heaven continues to favor you. The last line of Psalm 23 is not a farewell. It's an eternal invitation. And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. There is a place where the soul rests, even when the body is in motion. A place where peace remains, even when everything around you changes. That place is not physical. It is spiritual. It is the presence of God. To dwell in the house of the Lord is more than attending a church. It's living with awareness of His presence in every step. It's carrying within you an altar of worship. It's living with the knowledge that God doesn't only reside in sacred places, He dwells inside surrendered hearts. You can be at home, at work, in the streets, in traffic, and still be in the house of the Lord. Because where there is surrender, there is communion. Where there is faith, there is a dwelling. Where there is true worship, His presence is revealed. This morning is another chance to reaffirm, Lord, I want to dwell with you. I want to make your presence my address, your heart my shelter. There is nothing safer than living close to God, nothing more valuable than being where He is. And the most beautiful part is that He also wants to be with you. He rejoices when you wake up and choose to pray, when you decide to start the day by speaking with Him, when you allow the Holy Spirit to be your guide, not just a resource for emergencies. To live dwelling in the Lord is to live anchored. It is not being carried by the waves of the moment. It is not being destroyed by sudden changes. It is standing firm even when everything is shaking. Morning is in a rush. The world awakens with notifications, commitments, and hurry. But there is something precious that only happens in silence. The voice of God. He does not always speak in the noise of events or in the movement of big things. Many times He whispers, and only those who stop can hear. Have you noticed how hard it is to silence yourself inside? Even when everything around is quiet, the mind hosts a crowd of thoughts, worries about what needs to be done, guilt over what hasn't been done, fears about what might happen, and all of that shouts. But there is a powerful spiritual secret. When you silence your heart, heaven speaks. This prayer is not a monologue, it is a dialogue, and now is the time to listen. Listen to what the shepherd wants to say. Listen to what the word wants to minister. Listen to what the Spirit wants to reveal. Maybe the instruction you've been waiting for today has already been given, but the noise kept you from noticing. Maybe the comfort you need has already been released, but the rush drowned out your sensitivity. Maybe the direction you've been seeking for days is being shown now, between a deep breath and a willing heart. Today, choose to slow down inside. Set aside minutes of real silence, not just with your lips but with your soul, because in the silence, God reminds you of who you are. He removes the burden that isn't yours, and He rekindles the flame of what He planted. To dwell in His presence also means to know how to listen, and He is speaking now. It is not the absence of problems that brings peace, but the certainty that you are being cared for even in the midst of them. And that is the essence of Psalm 23. A God who guides, feeds, restores and protects. A God who doesn't watch you from afar but walks with you. He is involved, present, faithful. Today you may wake up with doubts about what will happen, but you don't have to doubt who is with you. You may not have all the answers, but you have the shepherd by your side. And that changes everything. He knows the paths, even the ones you never imagined walking. He anticipates traps, offers rest when you insist on pushing forward, prepares nourishment when you've lost your spiritual appetite. You are not at the mercy of luck, nor a hostage of circumstances. You are in the hands of the one who sustains the universe with His word, and who also cares about the details of your day. The one who measures the stars, and also counts the tears you don't let fall. There is safety in that. There is shelter in that care. You can leave your house today and face whatever comes, because nothing escapes God's control. He is going ahead of you, clearing paths, removing dangers, preparing the invisible. And when fear tries to enter through the door of your mind, remember, you are in the right hands, and everything that is in God's hands is safe. There are those who pray for peace, yet live as if God were distant. There are those who declare faith, yet walk as if everything depended on themselves. But there is a silent and deep transformation that happens when Psalm 23 stops being just a text and becomes a lived reality. I shall not want is not just a phrase, it is a way of seeing life. It's waking up and knowing that even if something is missing in the visible world, sufficiency has already been provided in the spiritual. It's walking lightly because there is a voice inside you saying, I'm taking care of everything. When this faith truly takes root, it changes the way you speak, plan, and react. Anxiety loses its strength, fear loses ground, and even the hardest days start being lived with hope. The shepherd hasn't called you to live with emotional highs and lows. He has called you to live steady, consistent, anchored in His truth. And that steadiness comes from the certainty that He is the same every day. The same one who sustained you yesterday will strengthen you today, and has already prepared what you don't even know you'll need tomorrow. If this word echoed inside you, write in the comments, My faith today is my way of life. Share this phrase as someone who chooses to live guided, not lost, with purpose, not by impulse, because when faith becomes the path, even the impossible becomes part of the journey. Some things don't disappear all at once. They fade little by little. The courage to dream, the desire to pray, the hope for better days. And before you know it, you're living on autopilot, doing everything right on the outside, but empty on the inside. That's why the shepherd also restores the soul. He doesn't just guide the body, he renews the heart. He doesn't want you to be just functional. He wants you to be refreshed, with a living soul, with faith rekindled, with trust restored. Maybe somewhere along the way you began to stop believing, to think it was no longer possible, that the promise had been lost in time. But today, this morning, God is calling you back to a place of trust, not a trust based on circumstances, but on His faithfulness. He hasn't forgotten what He promised. He hasn't changed His mind, and He's not late. What He started, He Himself will finish, even if it took a long time, even if everything has changed, even if you became discouraged for a while. Trust again, hope again, dream again with Him, because those who walk with the shepherd may stumble, but they do not give up. They may cry, but they do not drown. They may doubt for a moment, but faith always rises again. And today it is rising again in you. Not every blessing arrives with noise. Not every miracle comes as a spectacle. Sometimes God takes care of you behind the scenes, in the details no one notices, in the deliverances you'll never see, in the doors He closes before you walk through the wrong paths. The shepherd isn't only in moments of celebration, He is above all in the in-betweens, when you feel peace without knowing why. When something that could have gone wrong mysteriously works out, when you have no strength to go on, but suddenly find yourself standing. This is the subtle care of God, a care that doesn't need to prove itself, that doesn't demand recognition, that doesn't depend on your performance. He cares because He loves. He cares because He promised. He cares because it's His nature to be faithful. Today, as you prepare to carry out your responsibilities, remember, there is a God organizing the invisible in your favor. He is positioning people, removing dangers, inspiring decisions, preparing encounters, bringing lightness where there was heaviness. You may not see everything, but you can trust, because while you were sleeping He was already working, and now as you walk, He continues to care. That is the beauty of Psalm 23. The care begins before the need, and if you pay attention, you will notice that God's love is in every detail of your day. You still don't know everything this day will require. You don't imagine which battles are about to arise, which words you'll have to swallow, which unexpected decisions you'll have to make. But there is a quiet promise hidden in Psalm 23. You won't face anything alone. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. This isn't poetry, it's spiritual reality. It's not the absence of valleys, but the presence in the midst of them. And that's what sustains the heart when things slip from our control, knowing that God doesn't abandon you, even when everything gets dark. True courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to keep going even while trembling, because you trust the one who guides you. And the shepherd doesn't retreat. He crosses the valley with you. He turns on lights in the middle of shadows. He whispers peace into restlessness. Maybe today you're facing an emotional valley, a resurfaced wound, a piece of news that shook you, a situation that's out of your hands. But don't run from the valley. Go through it with faith, with courage, with the presence of God beside you. And as you walk, remember, every step you take in the dark is being guided by a hand that sees everything. Nothing awaiting you at the end of this day is a surprise to heaven. And where divine presence exists, there is protection. Where divine presence exists, there is victory. Have you ever stopped to think that God's love is not a fleeting feeling, but a place where you can dwell? a permanent refuge where a tired soul can rest, a wounded heart can heal, and a weary spirit can rise with new hope. And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. This phrase speaks of permanence, of constancy, of a relationship that does not depend on your performance. God is not with you only in the good moments, or just when you feel spiritually strong. He is always. There is safety in God's love, a love that doesn't cast you out when you fail, that doesn't distance itself when you are weak, that doesn't compare you to anyone, a love that sustains you, teaches you, strengthens you, and waits for you when you drift away. Maybe you've lived for too long trying to deserve this love, trying to always get it right, afraid of disappointing God. But His love is not based on your effort. It is based on the covenant He made with you, a covenant that cannot be broken, a commitment that does not fail. Today you can live in that place of love. You can start over as many times as necessary. You can cry without guilt. You can ask for help without shame. You can pray without rehearsing. Because the shepherd who guides you also welcomes you. He doesn't want you to merely go through life. He wants you to live it with the certainty that you are loved, deeply and forever. Have you noticed how everything changes when you look through the eyes of faith? The same situations take on a different weight. Difficulties no longer paralyze you. Waiting no longer leads to despair. And the no's in life are no longer an end, just part of the process. Psalm 23 trains us to see the world through heaven's eyes. It teaches us that there is provision, even when there's scarcity around. That there is direction, even when the path seems foggy. That there is rest, even in the midst of exhaustion. Faith shifts the focus. It takes our eyes off the lack and helps us see His faithfulness. It redirects our attention from the problem to His presence. Maybe you started this day with a mind full of what-ifs. What if it doesn't work? What if it happens again? What if I fail? But today, God is inviting you to reverse those thoughts. To look up and declare, what if everything works together for my good? What if God is protecting me from something greater? What if this struggle is the beginning of a testimony? When you change your perspective, you're not denying the pain. You're choosing to believe it's not the end. You're deciding to live by faith and not by what your eyes see. And that opens paths that were once closed. Faith doesn't just move mountains, it moves the heart of the one who practices it. If you want to live this day through the eyes of faith, write in the comments, "Today I choose to see through heaven's eyes." Because those who see through the divine lens find purpose even on cloudy days. The world values having success, having control, having influence. But in God's kingdom, what matters most is being with Him, being under His direction, being in the center of His will. And that's what transforms an ordinary day into an extraordinary one, God's presence along the journey. Psalm 23 reveals this in a sublime way. It doesn't promise a life without valleys, but it guarantees a shepherd who walks through every one of them with you. It doesn't eliminate danger, but it promises comfort. It doesn't remove the challenges, but it offers rest along the way. Because the focus is not on the circumstances, it's on the companionship. Today, what matters most is not what you will achieve, but with whom you will walk. And if it's with God, even the hardest challenges become opportunities to grow, mature, and draw closer to Him. The presence of the Lord is the most precious treasure anyone can carry. You may face long lines, traffic, pressure at work, family conflicts. But if God is with you, everything feels lighter. there's an invisible peace, a guiding wisdom, a strength that does not run out, because the presence of God is what gives life meaning and flavor. This morning, choose to be where God is, and if something has distanced you from Him, return. Because the shepherd does not move by convenience, he moves by love, and that love is available now, right where you are. There are battles no one sees, silent wars waged in mind and heart, insecurities left unspoken, thoughts that sabotage you before the day even begins. But there is a truth that must echo in your soul this morning. God also fights in the invisible. When the psalmist says that the Lord prepares a table in the presence of enemies, he's not just talking about people or external circumstances, but also about internal enemies, fear, comparison, guilt, anxiety. And the table represents more than provision. It's a symbol of victory. You've been invited to sit, to rest, to feast on what God has already prepared, even if the battle is still happening around you. Because when God calls you to the table, He's saying, I will handle what threatens you. Just trust me and remain in peace. Today, before facing the world, sit at that spiritual table. Feed on the Word. Drink from His presence. Strengthen your spirit. Because what you carry inside determines how you respond to what comes from the outside. And when thoughts try to tell you that you won't make it, that you're not capable, that you're alone, remember, the table is set. And on it, there is strength, direction, healing, rest, and promise. You've been equipped to overcome even what others don't know you're facing, and God is ahead of you, winning the battle for you. Many times, God's promises feel distant, as if they're reserved for some uncertain future, or for more spiritual people. But Psalm 23 doesn't speak of distant promises. It speaks of a present reality. It teaches us to live as those who have already received, as those who carry the certainty that God is working, even behind the scenes. The promise I shall not want is not for when everything is resolved, it's for today, it's for now, for the breakfast you still haven't had, for the road you'll travel, for the hard conversation you need to have, for the email you've been avoiding, for the weariness already starting to weigh on you. God is present in all of it. And when that awareness awakens, life takes on a different tone. You start to notice the details, His care in small deliverances, His presence in small joys, His hand opening space where there was none. And every ordinary moment becomes an opportunity to recognize just how deeply loved you are. That awareness needs to be cultivated, because the world wants to distract you. It wants to make you forget. It wants you to run so fast that you don't even notice the table God placed right in front of you. But when you pause, pray, quiet yourself, and align with the shepherd, everything returns to its place. Today, before continuing with your routine, decide to live with this awareness. God is with me, He sees me, He loves me, He guides me, and therefore I shall not want. You may not be able to control everything that happens today. You may be surprised, tested, pressured. But one thing is certain. Those who begin the day in covenant with God end the day still standing, even if they've cried, even if they've been hurt, even if they've made mistakes. The strength of your journey is not in how much you prepare, but in who walks beside you. The shepherd of Psalm 23 is not just a guide. He is the God of covenant, the one who makes a commitment with you not because of merit, but because of love. He does not break promises. He does not abandon you halfway. He never grows tired of you. When you rise with that conviction, even bad news must bow to divine faithfulness, Because the covenant protects, the covenant guarantees, the covenant sustains, and maybe you don't even realize it, but there are things that didn't happen today precisely because you prayed, because you chose to trust, because your covenant with God spoke louder than the enemy's strategies. There are battles that were won without you having to raise your voice. It was enough to raise your faith. So walk through this day like someone who carries a living promise, like someone who is not dependent on the weather, on others' moods, or on the news of the world. Walk like someone who belongs to a shepherd who watches over you with eternal care. And when the day gets dark, you'll be able to say, "Today the Lord protected me. Today he was my shepherd, and once again I lacked nothing." We come to the end of this prayer with a certainty planted in the heart. I shall not want. Not because everything is under human control, not because there are no challenges, but because the Lord is my shepherd, and where he is, there is provision, there is direction, there is rest, there is victory. This is not a phrase to repeat mechanically, it's a truth to live by, an anchor for difficult days, a reminder for turbulent mornings, a refreshment when the soul forgets who God is. I shall not want means, if I have his presence, then I already have everything. You can walk today without fear. You can face your tasks without anxiety. You can handle the unexpected with serenity. Because nothing, absolutely nothing, escapes God's care. He guides you with rod and staff, prepares a table in the midst of battle, anoints you with fresh oil, and continues to follow you with goodness and mercy. And more than that, he chose to dwell with you, to make your life his dwelling, to turn your routine into a pathway of silent miracles and constant touches of love. As this prayer comes to a close, hold this deep in your soul. The same God who woke you up this morning will go with you until the end of the day. And tomorrow he'll be there again, faithful present shepherd. You will lack nothing, because everything you need is in him.